Rembrandt, I just want to ask something that just came to my mind. When we talk about, we talk about women, being more masculine, and we talk about, like, usually when they say respect, they're talking about in the work. But men's masculinity is not just predicated on the workforce. Let's talk about the fact that, okay, you make more income now. Are you going to willing to provide for a man and a family for the rest of your lifetime, for a lifetime? Are you going to be able to protect a man? And you want to be masculine, like, okay, women don't get respect because we got to be more masculine. Are you taking a bullet for your man? Or are you going to take one for your, for your family? Are you going to be the front line and expect, to basically nurture and take care of a man and, his ambitions and be able to support him for a lifetime? You know what I'm saying? Like, we say things like, okay, like take the role forward, though. Don't take the role just for the workforce and where it's just where you want it to benefit you, because how convenient. How convenient you want it to benefit you in one aspect of masculinity. How about, no, let's do the whole...
In general, the social-economic economy.
Social-economic.
Yeah. That's a great point.
And now, Verbal Artwork Podcast with Mr. Rembrandt.
All right. So this is another episode of Verbal Artwork with Mr. Rembrandt. Of course, I'm Mr. Rembrandt. And we have a familiar guest, Raw Wilkes. And we're going to be in for a good episode today. So it's been a while since we came out with another episode. So obviously I've been working on a few projects that are going to be released soon, and we definitely, I know you've been working on some things too, but we're going to get into some juicy topics. So hey, if you got anything you want to start off with, you definitely can, or if you just want me to just go ahead and go into something, I definitely can.
All right. Yeah, I can let you go ahead and take the lead, and I'll just piggyback off you. Not anything off the top of the head right now. Why is it that a woman wants to be more masculine, but yet men don't want to be more feminine? Yeah. I don't get it, bro. I can't process that. I don't wake up in the morning like, you know what? Let me become more feminine. But y'all have no problem becoming more masculine.
Yeah, so with that video, it didn't get that, it wasn't that viral, whatever. It didn't get that many comments, but I will note that it did have one specific comment that I thought was really good, and I'm gonna share that comment so that the people can see, so we can go into it. Now, based on that comment, it was said here for that particular person. Okay, I'll just pop it up again, and I'm just going to read it again real quick. So double take. Yeah, so again, it says, femininity is generally accepted as weakness. Historically, we've always assigned women traits, skills, and habits as being lesser than men's. Even in the new female empowerment movement we're developing, these feminine traits aren't widely accepted. Instead of empowering women to be women, we're empowering ourselves to be more assertive, stronger, more gender ambitious, because that's what we've determined a powerful person looks like. Even women have a hard time taking very feminine women seriously. To be empowered and feminine, you have to have boatloads of self-confidence, and even then people are less likely to take you seriously. To be empowered and masculine is much more approachable. It's frustrating and sad that in order for us to be taken seriously, we have to project an image of ourselves that isn't always who we are. Now, if we break down this comment, because I think it's important to break it down, and like I said, based on the video we gave, which is a short clip, and even, Andrew Tate has even explained that when you have long form conversation and you take short clips, it's easy for those short clips to be dissected in a manner that isn't exactly accurate to what is being portrayed. But she did try to make a honest response based upon what was at hand. So now I'll say this. In general, when we break it down, where it says femininity is generally accepted as weakness. First of all, I would say that's incorrect. And in my opinion, what do you mean by femininity is generally accepted as weakness? Because a feminine woman to me is a woman who's great at taking care of kids, who's great at being a great wife, who's great at maybe being responsible and knowing what her man needs, knowing what her family needs. These are the feminine qualities of empathy and sympathy generally that women have in taking care of a family. So to say that that is some type of weakness, who deems that as a weakness? Men don't. I don't. So maybe there's proclivity amongst women who are using highly aggressive behavior amongst each other to assert this type of connotation within each other, that femininity is generally weak because the aspects of femininity are not accepted as strong. That's something that women have between themselves. So that right there, men don't view that aspect when it comes to femininity. Now we're talking about first wave femininity. We're not talking about third wave. We're just talking about femininity as in the woman, not femininity as in the movement. So femininity generally accepted as weakness, that is incorrect. Men don't see femininity as a weakness. I don't ever hear conversations about where people just say overall women are just weak when they're feminine. That's just not true. If we continue, it'll say historically we've always assigned women traits, skills, and habits as being lesser than men's. Again, what traits, skills, and habits do you think are lesser than men's? Like, are women's traits, again, that I just named, are traits that us as men are not great at. The traits that women have are,
less aggressive, passionate, like intuitive. I mean, these things that also make women good in other fields, that maybe that you should be looking at the fields that these women dominate in and stop looking at it from a masculine. It's almost like you're comparing your statements, comparing it as if you are a man.
You're right. It's looked through the viewpoint of like, exactly like you're a man, like you're competing with us as just the traits that we have are the traits that you should have. But if that's the case, different. We're different, because if that's the case, your whole viewpoint on this is based on a misconception, because the traits that women have, I see, are exceptional because the traits they have are not habits that I want to have and or aren't good at. I mean, the ability that a woman can breastfeed, I can't do that. That's an ability, trait, or skill or habit that women have that men can't do. I don't see that as lesser. A child getting fed breast milk, for example, and getting nurtured by a woman, I don't see that as lesser. And any person who thinks that's lesser is ridiculous. I don't understand. Again, like you said, it appears that the framework in which you're viewing this statement is through the eyes of men. So we'll continue. Even in the new female empowerment movement, we're developing these feminine traits. Even in the new feminine empowerment movement we're developing, these feminine traits aren't widely accepted. So So she's saying even with the radical feminine movement that is being espoused nowadays, feminine traits aren't widely being accepted. Okay, I will agree with that, but the new female empowerment movement isn't promoting feminine traits. It's promoting masculine traits. Yeah. It's promoting that women need to be more like men, and that people need to accept it.
How about we look at it this way? Tell me where in what fields masculine traits would be accepted that would rather be feminine traits would be a better, you know what I'm saying, a better trait for a better trait that would be useful in a certain field that's more feminine trait dominant. You see what I'm saying? Like you're looking at it like when she says right here that the movement or development that feminine traits are not widely accepted. Well, to be fair, are feminine traits going to be accepted in any field or anywhere? Certain traits, masculine traits wouldn't be accepted in. Like when it comes down to childcare, when it maybe comes down to nursing. Yeah. A masculine trait that's very, like very aggressive, assertive, competitive might not be the best trait to be in a childcare facility. Yes. But your traits that are feminine are more accepted. So what are you talking about? We're now predicating that we're talking about, again, masculine areas that you want to be able to push feminine traits on that won't work. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You see what I'm saying? Because we could push that and flip it and say, well, masculine traits are not always accepted in everywhere in society as well. Look what's already working. But that's where the blind eye comes, in my opinion. I think some of the things that are already working for women, they have a blind eye to, and they focus on what men are doing. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and that is just an incorrect perception based on some type of cognitive bias, cognitive distortion, or some type of incorrect perspective that women have in general that are causing them to have an incorrect supposition about how they view life. We have nothing to do with that. Okay, but again, I'll continue so we can finish this. Instead of empowering women to be women, we're empowering ourselves to be more assertive, stronger, more gender ambitious, because that's what we've determined a powerful person looks like. Great. That is honest and great. Mm-hmm. And well, that is what women, the second and third wave feminist movements have strived for. That's what you as women wanted. And us as men, we said, hey, if that's what you want, have it. But that doesn't give an example on why it's good that women want to be men and men don't want to be women. That is the price of having a radical feminist movement, that women do not want to be women. They feel like a powerful person looks like somebody who's very masculinely assertive and masculinely strong, and as she says, more gender ambitious. I wouldn't even say gender ambitious because, like, for example, if being in a relationship, which we've had experience with, if my significant other was to say, hey, I think we should have more kids, it'll be a great thing for us to have, I would say that's gender ambitious. Yeah. To say, hey, if we have two, that's good, but I think we have another one, that would be even great for our family. That's gender ambitious. So again, a lot of things are not being taken to play. I think it's just an incorrect supposition. Yeah. And my thing is this, I have two questions. My first question is, why you as a woman want to be a powerful person? That'd be the first thing. Why do you want to be a powerful person? What's the reason behind that when you say that women want to be to be more of a powerful person, what that looks like? Yeah. And then, and my second question is, as a woman is, what are you happy to be more masculine? That would be my ultimate question. The second question, does that make you more fulfilled and happier to be more masculine and do these gender, what you say, more gender ambiguous? Does that also create more fulfillment amongst women? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That would be the question. Like, you asked your question, do you want to be more powerful? And two, do you get fulfillment out of that?
Right.
Well, obviously, men been doing it since the beginning of time. So that's us acting in our innate nature. So you acting out of your nature, are you happier?
Right.
And if the question is not really, then what's the point?
So it says here, continuing, even women have a hard time taking very feminine women seriously. Again, great. She's on top. She's on point there. She's on point. But that is a constructive default to what you as women have strived for. The fact that you don't take each other seriously if a woman is being naturally feminine. That's something that you guys have destroyed each other with. So for her to say even women have a hard time taking a very feminine woman seriously, that's on you guys. That's not on us. We still see you guys as women.
I disagree with that 100%, because a very feminine woman that's married with children, you guys look up to that.
Yes. So you're right. So when it comes to when it does come to some type of hierarchy, which we've used empirical observation to understand this, and when you do tell a young lady, like, you know, what do you know? You're not even married, and why isn't that married women hang out with you? It's always a mouth open, jaw open, like, yeah, you're right. I mean, I do feel insignificant without being married. But there is this proclivity when it comes to conversations that are geared towards maybe an economic market, where other women do frown and look down upon feminine women. I mean, we do know that, if a group of women were to say, you know, I'm a stay-at-home mom and I do this and I provide for a great husband who's amazing and take care of a family who I love dearly, and I'm just the happiest woman in the world. And then you have then other women in that particular setting who might make six figures or have high income jobs or whatever. They will definitely have this indirect verbal aggression in which they'll use to denigrate the women in the room due to societal norms, and convince themselves that they are lesser than. But that type of woman who does that is a type of woman who sees herself as in a masculine competitive market. She sees herself masculinely and competitively.
But yet, if you talk to women that have children, no matter how successful they are in their career, they say nothing is better than motherhood. Then amongst women that talk about children, even have baby fever, that don't even have kids, that wish they had kids when they're around these women, and forget everything about their actual economic status and everything, and they look at the actual mother just being with a child. Even women that have the worst relationships still say, I don't regret actually being a mother. So then you talk about these things, and then there's a lot of studies that show that women that actually became lawyers or doctors that did 13 years of schooling, and then geriatric pregnancy starts 35, some of them actually regret the fact that they even wasted their time to get a piece of paper. And then there's the biological differences of a man. It's like, yeah, we become doctors not because of the fact that we're like that much more smarter. We don't have a biological time different decay to where if we have kids at 35, it's not that big a deal. You know, so there's women that even talk about, like, if they could do it all over again, they would have actually maybe not pushed high academia and actually maybe just got their master's degree and actually started a family. And even some of the ones that actually do have and obviously this is, you know, not the most, but it's the ones that I've actually encountered and talked to, and to a small degree, was even saying that even when they had their child, they wish they could spend more time with it, and actually took a more part-time position. Purposely put their income on hold just to be around the child more. Yeah. And actually regret the fact that they actually even worked a high full-time job. Now, granted, this is not everybody's situation. These are women that some of the young women strive to be, and these are the ones that are trying to tell their story, saying, hey, maybe that you shouldn't do what I did because I'm actually not that fulfilled. Again, following the masculine way of doing things and becoming in STEM fields and becoming high earners benefit men more than it benefits women. overall, on a long term, if you're talking about the having a nuclear family, which is like I think Jordan Peterson, like if after 30, almost 99% of women want to have children.
Yeah, that's why it was hard for the law firms when he was hired as a psychologist to try to understand the environment of the why they couldn't keep women inside the law firms, the very important law firms. And a lot of psychologists do these type of works to understand work environments. And yeah, that is a study. That is the conclusion that he had come to when he came to studying that particular field. Is a lot of the women, they come to a point where they're getting close to 30, and they were saying, you know, basically, what am I doing this for? Working these long hours, making this high income. When I have a man who works the long hours, he has the income that's available to support the both of us. What am I doing this for? I'm not even happy doing this. I actually feel more fulfillment and happiness with having a child now that I get older. Time clock's kicking. I want to have children. Even Joanna Jurfacek, her last fight that she had, she lost against Welly, the Chinese girl. That was a title eliminator fight, and Welly will get the next fight against Carla Espinoza for the championship, UFC. And Joanna at the time was the GOAT, but she's in her last four fights, she's lost 2 out of 4, or maybe even 3 out of 4. And she's getting older. So again, for some reason we got temporarily phased, but I'll just pick back up. So Joanna Jurkacek, her name's kind of difficult because she's from Poland or whatever, but even she had said, you know, hey guys, I'm retiring, you know, I'm retiring. After she lost, she was like, she's early 30s, I believe. You know, I just don't love this anymore. You know, I'm retiring. I want to get married. I want to have a family. I want to be a mother. And so I'm retiring.
Guys, I love life so much. I will join this league. I'm retired, guys. I love you so much. Thank you for the support.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Guys, it's been 20 years. I'm turning 35 this year. I want to be a mom. And I've been training 2 decades, most than half of my life. I appreciate you all. I love you guys.
And this is my last fight. So, which I understand, you know, she lost that fight, so it would take like 2 or 3 more fights to get to fighting for the belt. And she's in her early 30s. She's going to be considered one of the greatest of all time in that division. She has M's in her bank account. Early 30s, what's the point now? Now the point is actually have fulfillment in life, you know, the real fulfillment for women. And do what she wants, be a mother. And, you know, that showing, that video that happened of her expressing herself in that manner is actually the intrinsic feeling that women get all the time. It's intrinsic. It's not fake. It's not a joke. It's something that women desire. It's intrinsic. Even in all honesty, in one episode of the Fresh and Fit podcast where they actually had this research biologist on, or research scientist on, and she was actually saying, you know, to be honest, women, I'm saying this for us, like she said, you know, I'm gonna be honest, you know, I love being a single woman and you know, getting my own money and working hard and all that, and I get it, women, but I'll say this, not all the time, that's not good for us as women. This behavior of doing things that are have masculine vibes and behaviors to them actually mess with our physical and psychological health. We're not designed to be masculine like men and to do things like men. We're designed to be like women. And the studies have shown that when it comes to us living a life that is similar to that of a man, it has physical and psychological repercussions. And there's a reason why women have babies and men are stronger to have the proclivity to biologically protect the family. It's what most species do. Well, moving on to finish the comment here. It says to be empowered and feminine, you have to have boatloads of self-confidence, and even then, people are less likely to take you serious. Well, anybody generally has to have some form of confidence to be taken serious by another individual. But feminine and confident, or not feminine and confident, confident is definitely the prerequisite to being taken seriously by somebody. But even then, if you're just a feminine person who does a good job, or a masculine person who does a good job at something, you're going to be taken seriously. I don't agree. It's women ruminating and having these toxic feminine circles in which they denigrate each other with negative pejoratives and behaviors and which they shame each other. And women are actually great at this. And I'll get into that in a little bit. I also going to get back into what you spoke of when you talked about women getting children and starting a family and wanting to revert to part-time work instead of full-time. I'm going to get into that a little bit more, because there's a lot of these things that she's saying is actually shown to be indirect aggressive behavior that women have with each other, that's has been cited completely as toxic aggressive behavior that women have within each other. And like I said, I'll get into that, which is called indirect forms of aggression, in a minute. So finishing up this, to be empowered and masculine is much more approachable. I wouldn't agree with that. Nowadays, being masculine is being destroyed.
You're a misogynist.
You're a misogynist. You're toxic masculinity just by being masculine.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Andrew Tate, for example. He is the epitome of a masculine man. And what happened to him? He was shunned off the internet.
Yeah. So I don't. It's almost like it's a double talk in the sense that, well, maybe women can be masculine and get respect for it, but if a man's too masculine, he's considered a male chauvinist.
Yeah, exactly.
So I exhibit traits of heavy or high masculinity, and then I'm told to tone it down.
Exactly.
But yet in your message here, you're saying that it's much more approachable. I disagree. You're actually, if anything, that's why Candace Owens said, bring the masculine men back.
Yeah.
We need more. We need more masculinity. Actually, men are being less masculine. That's probably why we could actually make the argument and say that this was causing a lot more issues, because men are not being what they are should be in general, overall.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely true. It's frustrating and sad that in order for us to be taken seriously, we have to project an image of ourselves that isn't always who we are. Well, that's how you women feel when you are culminating in feminine circles. But us as men, we don't see that. I'm not dating a masculine woman. I'm not going to date a masculine woman. I'm not going to marry a masculine woman. And
why would you?
Yeah, and typically no man is not.
especially one that you value to marry. A man that you would vet for marriage, you would want to, that type of man. So not obviously not any man, but just the men that you would vet would not want to date a masculine woman. I would say that to be more careful and direct. The man that you would vet for marriage, the man that this woman would probably vet for marriage or would want to marry, is probably would not be, obviously I wouldn't, consider it be a bum on the street, but somebody with some type of value. Would that man want to date a masculine woman would be the question.
So Lauren Simmons, my advice to you is, if you are a young lady who wants to be more feminine but feel that you can't for the reasons that you laid out, or you feel like other women can't for the reasons that you laid out, then, and you believe that that's wrong, which it may seem that you feel that that's wrong because you are saying that it's bad that women can't be quote unquote feminine because it's seen in all these negative suppositional perspectives. My advice to you would be, since you are aware of this, why don't you do something about it? Young women that you work with and that you're around, like I always say, and like you've said it too, Raw Wilkes, that the greatest thing you can do is be a great influence on you, your family, and your community. You can't necessarily change the world. That's kind of an obscured goal to try to aspire to, which some people are able to do it. I would say empower the people around you. But thanks for the comment, Lauren.
Yeah, and I remember reading something from the sociologist. I think her name was Nicholas Wolfinger, was saying that he did a study where showing that the reason why women drop out of STEM fields and fields in that nature is because they feel that it's incompatible with a family. It's not close, not even close. That academic career is incompatible with starting a nuclear family, or starting a family, or having a family.
Yeah.
And I mean, granted, you didn't have to do a study on this. To me, it would be common sense because, our population is generated from having women giving birth. It's one of the most important things. This is why we have a civilization, right? Because women are having children.
Right.
And to me, that's more important than having more women get into academic STEM fields that are already being done in general, that has no utility, than actual kids being born, children, that continues our existence. I mean, the only reason, and I don't want to say the only reason, but the main reason why we're even here, existence as a species, is to procreate.
Yes.
So it's like when you talk about these things, you're taking away one of the biggest things that we rely and depend on as a species, is for women to continue to have children and bear children. No person has it.
And it's on the downturn.
Yeah, population's declining
because of these reasons. Because of these reasons.
So we can make the argument saying that actually it goes against, your argument. We'll say it goes against the actual,
biology.
There you go. Yeah, biology. Yeah. And I don't. Again, to answer her question, I don't see it as a negative. I see it as, what I see, in my opinion, is that you're putting feminine traits that don't work in masculine industries, and then you're complaining about why they don't work. Yeah, you know what? You don't get respect for being feminine in a when you're looking on the front line of infantry. Yeah, maybe I won't respect you that you have a feminine traits, and I got to do a job that requires a competitive, aggressive edge. You know what I'm saying? So when you look at that, should I respect feminine traits? Now, see what I'm saying? Now, see how the conversation looks? And then maybe in other words, like, hey, you're supposed to be a guidance counselor or something. You're too aggressive and hard. You're thoughtless. Okay. Maybe that masculine trait doesn't fit that position. And then we don't have respect for that person because he's not getting good outcomes. But feminine traits don't have good outcomes in every industry. That would be my take on it. It's like your feminine traits don't have good outcomes. In certain industries, yes, I would say I probably wouldn't respect feminine traits in certain industries. And we could go over those industries, but there's going to be certain industries that, you wouldn't get respect because they don't work. And that goes for guys and girls, because to be correct, a man could be feminine, correct? because it's just
Yes.
traits. It's not a biological thing. It's a trait. So you could be a man and have feminine traits and still not get respect in a masculine industry. So that's kind of how my take is on it. It's like you're saying in a blanket, and I'm saying that yes, there's certain fields, teaching, nursing, guidance counselor, therapists, massage therapists, a lot of industries that women dominate, and these require feminine traits, but no one says nothing about those. You're questioning the other jobs, the STEM, the science, the technology, engineering, the mathematics, and these fields that, okay, women are not getting respect in those fields. You got to ask yourself why. Why you feel that you don't get respect in that? Is it a woman thing, or just the qualities don't really create the because certain characteristics do create a certain job outcome. You know what I'm saying? Like being conscientious, organized, versus somebody that's an artist that needs to be a little bit more open, like fashion, open, creative. Those type of aspects, and then maybe look at that from a characteristic standpoint more than a masculine and feminine character traits.
And just to add to that, the feminine and masculine traits are culminated in biology. Generally, women are feminine and men are masculine. But because we have the element of choice and the element of decision making, and we also have the factor of psychological or cognitive deficiencies, these things can switch, or you can be more of one than the other. So yeah, just clarifying that. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an incredible dichotomy that is kind of destroying society. I mean, like you laid out perfectly clear that for example, when it comes to marriages are decreasing. Divorces have been increasing since the 60s. Women's income have gone up, and the number of degrees that women are receiving has gone up, and the amount of women in university and college education is being dominated by women. And what has this? And it's what they wanted, and yeah, it's the most liberated areas. And what has this done to society? This has caused the she economy. And the she economy is a study that's been done by Morgan Stanley and other companies, in which they've come to the realization that in the future, by 2030, approximately half of all women 30 years of age and older will be single and childless, and most likely forever. So you ask, is this a good thing? No, it's a destruction of the production of the human society.
Real quick, Mr. Rembrandt, I just want to add something that just came to my mind. When we talk about we talk about women, being more masculine, and we talk about, like, usually when they say respect, they're talking about in the workforce. But men's masculinity is not just predicated on workforce. Let's talk about the fact that, okay, you make more income now. Are you going to willing to provide for a man and a family for the rest of your lifetime, for a lifetime? Are you going to be able to protect a man? And you want to be masculine, like, okay, women don't get respect because we got to be more masculine. Are you taking a bullet for your man? Or are you going to take one for for your family? Are you going to be the front line and expect to basically nurture and take care of a man and his ambitions and be able to support him for a lifetime? You know what I'm saying? Like, we say things like, okay, like take the roles forward, though. Don't take the roles just for the workforce, and where it's just where he wanted to benefit you, because how convenient you wanted to benefit you in one aspect of masculinity. How about, no, let's do the whole, what do you call it, the economy? Like the whole
the she economy?
Yeah.
Or are you talking about just in general the socioeconomic economy?
Socioeconomic.
Yes. That's a great point, because you actually just remind me of what I wanted to add on when you were talking, is the fact that, again, when a man makes high income, good money, he becomes competent, he takes that and he gets a great woman and starts a family. This is what men do. We become successful, we work hard try our best to become successful, try our hardest to become confident, try our hardest to be able to talk to women, try our hardest to be good men, try our hardest to be formidable. This is what is being taught in self-development, personal development. This is what Jordan Peterson talks about. This is why when young men come up to him in the street and shake his hand and say, "Thank you, Jordan Peterson," and they cry, and then Jordan Peterson cries. He says that feeling is overwhelming to be able to help men and help people to become better than what they are. And this is what men do. Men do this so that they can lead, they can be formidable, they can be somebody in the world. So now that women have taken on this type of habit in trying to make high income, I guess, and be socially economic, a social economic pathway in life. And then what as women are you doing with that? What we're seeing is you're living a life of being single, and you like dogs or do you like cats? And I say that because which one do you prefer? Because that's the life you're going down, where you're going to choose one as a companion, because you're not choosing a man as one. You're not choosing kids as one. And men don't do that, right? And then, so again, why are you doing this? Are you just aspiring just to have a high income and just live by yourself? Well, that sounds very happy. No, it doesn't.
Right.
It sounds very lonely because men don't do that. So I say this. If you are a woman who says, because remember, even if you are aspiring to a highly successful financial or economic life, still, you're going to be average at best. So why be average at best with a dog or a cat, no man, no family, no kids? That sounds like happiness. No. If you really are to expound to that life, because I do believe some women need to do it. We do need women to do this. But
no doubt.
But it needs to be, listen, I'm starting my own law firm. Like the young lady who I don't know her name, who's incredibly famous, who's represented a lot of women in sexual harassment cases across the United Country. She's number one. She's actually good friends with Larry Elder. She's very, very progressive politically. It's ridiculous, disgusting how progressive she is. But she's very famous, very popular. I can't think of the name. And she also represented the women when it came to the Fox CEO, when he got sued and got put out of Fox. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Weinstein. Yeah. So right. She represented a lot of those women in that case. Okay. If you're going to be her and have one of the biggest law firms in America representing the most atrocious cases, some of those cases are, I digress. But if you're doing that, striving to work in the STEM field to cure cancer, to cure disease, to help Elon Musk send spacecrafts to Mars, to have credible advancements that are not being done nowadays, then I say, yes, do it.
Yeah, because high impact.
Because that requires a life sometimes of solidarity.
Yes.
And you can find some meaning and be on your deathbed and say, listen, well, I don't have a family, but I cured cancer. And I will say, yes, if a woman, you're aspiring to that, then you'll have some fulfillment, you'll have some meaning. But just to aspire to some 80, 90K, 100K income and have a couple of dogs and cats, no man, no family, you're living a life of loneliness.
Yeah, as an employee, you don't own the company, you don't run it, can't pass it down to nobody.
You're average at best. Disgusting. And I feel sad for women.
And then back to the whole point, and this is just the science, is like we talked about, and we talked in a previous podcast, that reading the book, The Essential Difference, that men are predicated in general, are into things, and women are into people. So that means you, as a woman, are going to value relationships, and you get into jobs where you have to be around people. Think about it. The most masculine jobs are electrician, truck drivers, plumbers, mechanics, These are all jobs that are actually back to solidarity in their objects and deal with things. It has nothing to do with people. You know, and when you look at percentage-wise, these are high 95% plus jobs that are just male-dominated.
Yes.
And you look at the women jobs that women dominated are at a 90% rate. These are all dealing with people. Teaching, school teachers, guidance counselors, nursing.
Nurses.
These are all jobs that have to deal with what? It shows even at the highest level that when you're in a free country and you as a woman has a choice to pick a job that's not forced, you still show that you naturally pick the female jobs and the male still naturally pick the male job, even though we go to school and no one's forcing us to do anything. And yet we still pick the jobs based on biological differences.
Yes. In the most egalitarian societies. Yeah.
Yes, that's science. The males still do the male jobs and the women still do the male jobs. When you go outside and see a group of construction workers, do you see a group of women or do you see a group of men? You see a bunch of guys out there paving roads. I mean, people paving roads. You see a group of women or a group of men. Yeah, the men are doing the jobs, dealing with the things, the objects, the machinery, and the women typically, and in general, deal with jobs that deal with people.
Yeah.
There's nothing, you can't change that. You know, and sometimes you got to remind women that a lot of things are happening that maybe you're just not aware to, and you just don't pay attention to because it's just happening. It's just happening around you. And you don't actually see that fact that there's a lot of jobs that you would never do. And maybe you would never even want to do for a long 20, 30 years and work with a waste management plant or warehouse or a chemical plant that usually men work in these jobs that a woman would not want to do for 20, 30 years.
Yeah. No, exactly.
You know, that's fair to say, but you don't see men complaining about jobs women do that men just realize we would never be able to do. You don't see men complaining about why there's no men representation in a daycare, why we don't run a daycare, or why is most of the you go to a hospital, it's mostly female nurses, or why most school teachers are women. I mean, we don't complain about the jobs that women dominate and that they have a lion's share in. We just go, okay, that's just what women do, and we really don't want no parts of it because we would probably struggle in those jobs. Let's keep it real. We don't have the attention to detail to run a daycare with infants and toddlers. That's one thing that we know as men, no matter how conscientious we are, most men, like, I can't really deal with a young child for 24/7 care.
Right.
But you guys do it instinctively.
Right. Well,
like we have the instinct to be able to mechanically fix things.
Without even reading instructions.
Without even reading instructions, like, you know what, let me just put that together. But again, these are things that happen that doesn't have a price tag on it. And that's what I was saying about women looking at the jobs that men make in the high six figure. There's other things men do that don't have a price tag on it. Like if we're in public, if we see some danger happen, women expect men around them to help.
Yeah. And we run towards
We don't expect women to help us though, but you don't expect a woman to help you if you're in danger. A stranger woman. I'm talking about stranger. Yeah. A man will help a woman that's in distress that's a stranger to him. Naturally, but not expect that in return from a woman to help him if he was in an altercation and expect a woman to save him from that. And you as a woman wouldn't even want to get yourself because you would want to put yourself in danger. Yeah. That's a masculine trait. So you want to be masculine and deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, we're engaged in this behavior that is it's from an a priori understanding. Naturally, we understand all these commonalities that you said. In dangerous situations, men are jumping to it. We're staying on the ship, saying, "Listen, we're going to try to keep the ship up, but you guys get on the sailboats and you get out of here. You get on the small canoes. Women and children first. You get out of here."
100%.
And you know, when it comes to the children, I can't remember the movie, but they've made a few movies on it where, you know, the woman leaves for the day and the guy is stuck home. I think one of the names of the movie is Big Daddy. And he's home all day with the kid, trying to take care of it. And he's just doing all this ridiculous stuff, and the kid is just getting the better half of him.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, she comes home and she just knows exactly what to do to put her to bed.
Multitasking.
Meanwhile, that day that we had dealing with the child is the most adventurous day of the year, taking care of the child for a day. Mm-hmm. And they do it naturally. And we understand these things.
We understand it.
But there are these there are these social pressures psychologically, it's in that are psychologically and cognitively being implemented in young women from an early age that are causing these disastrous false planted ideas on how women should be that's really destroying their physical and mental health. It really is. I mean, there's a study that showed that, and this is how I know it's from a young age. There's a study that shown that where they questioned a lot of young preteens, and they questioned them and asked them, the boys and the girls, they asked them, you know, how important is financial success for you when you become an adult? And the young women rated that as a priority at a higher rate than the young men. When asked about the importance of marriage to you when you become an adult in the future, the young boys valued marriage at a higher rate than the young girls. What the freak is going on with our society?
Yeah.
So even at a very young age, the identity is incorrect. It's problematic.
Yeah.
Why are young women already thinking at a young age that that they have the desire of finances and success at a higher rate than young men? Because at the end of the day, women are hypergamous. When those young women become adult women, they're going to choose men who make incomes equal or higher than them, right? So for them to be choosing a pathway of financial success, okay, good, fine, but it shouldn't be at a rate higher than the men, because by numerological data and statistics, if the women are aspiring to that at a higher rate than the men are, then again, this is going to do nothing but increase the numbers of marriages that are occurring and keep increasing the number of divorces. And why are young men aspiring to being married than the young women? That means the young women are not aspiring to marriage. They're aspiring to finance. They're aspiring to money. And that's why they're leading a single life of cats and dogs and sadness.
Yeah.
They're not being taught the right things from a young age. This is the problem. As I forget her name, Ali Sapien. She's Just Pearly Things friend. They were on the Value Entertainment Sozcast podcast before, but even she had said, listen, she blames the mothers, and I'm right there with her. That the what is it? The bloom age category. What are they called? The boom boomers. They're called boomers.
Boomers.
Yeah. So the boomers, the boomer mothers were the problem.
Yeah.
You don't teach your daughters how to be women.
Yeah.
You're not teaching your daughters how to be women.
And the first teacher of any human is the mother. The mother is the first teacher of anybody, you know what I'm saying? You know, in the beginning stage.
Exactly.
That's the first teacher. That's how that's the foundation. And that's usually where culture sets in. And again, we have a culture issue because of the fact that girls are not becoming women, and boys are still doing what boys do. But the difference is, and I remember Jordan Peterson said this, he says that when boys play girls games, when boys play a girls game, they don't get respect from the girls or the boys. But when girls play boys game, they still get respect from boys and girls. This is why it's even allowed to even happen. This is why it's even allowed to happen, because of that thing. I can't act like a girl. You wouldn't like me, and then the people around me wouldn't like me.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
But when women do it, there's this little bit of pat on the back. You're a strong woman. It's not predicated on, well, why are you doing that? That's not ladylike. It's actually allows you and actually enforces the bad behavior. So you actually get bad reinforcement because you actually get congratulated for being a feminine woman. And so I disagree that actually being feminine, you get congratulated for being both. You know,
Yeah, you do.
That whole thing is, weak men make tougher times, and then tougher times, that whole cycle about, strong men make easy times, then easy times make weak men, and then weak men make tougher times.
Yeah.
That then create stronger men. I would say this with women, where they're going now is we have to let these boomers and then this new foundation of women grow up to realize how miserable it is. And then their misery will eventually create the new woman that's going to be the traditional type.
Yes.
Because this new wave of feminism is kind of still new. So it needs to cycle in a whole generation, or maybe 2 or 3, for it to realize that it's not, for it to realize it's not really the best approach, and then it doesn't give the most fulfillment. Yeah. Right now, it's still kind of new, so it's still kind of not really being, there's not a lot of data on it for the show. I'm sure there is, but not enough to where it's empowering the conversation to change.
Yeah,
the conversation hasn't changed yet.
We have the data on the direct results and conclusions of what's occurring, and
right,
we can see a futural horizon that shows negative results based upon the behavior that's going on now. Yeah,
and just for the audience, what's the percentage of divorces initiated by who, and what percentage is that? Just for the audience.
Yeah, so the amount of divorces initiated in Western society, typically America, is 80%, and it's approximately 70-something% amongst poor people, and 90-something% of successful women are having divorces, which give an average of about 80%. But so the kicker is this, though. The higher you go in income, the less likely you are to have a divorce. But the higher you go in income, the more likely you are that it will be the wife divorcing the man. So again, as a woman increases her education level, she has a higher chance of having a divorce. And as a woman increases her income level, she has a higher chance of being the one that initiates the divorce. When a woman has an education higher than her husband, there's a 97% chance that she only will date a man that makes more income than her. The highest percentage chance that a man has to date a woman where his income is lower than hers is when he has a bachelor's degree or higher and she has a associate's degree and lower, typically high school diploma. So when a man has significantly higher education, typically that's when a woman will be more acceptance. It is the category where women are the highest acceptance of dating a man that has lower income than them. When he has higher education.
This is why it doesn't make what you just said. This is what another reason why her argument doesn't make sense. Because women want to be equal to men, but yet they actually tell us we're not equal because they want to date up. They don't even want to date a man equal or below. They want to date a man better. Yeah. So even based on your dating strategy, you're saying to us indirectly that men are better. Because why even want to date a better man if you think that you're equal or better?
Yeah.
You wouldn't even try. You wouldn't even think that a better man existed.
Yes.
But yet, in dating strategy, we know the reasons. Maybe y'all don't know the reasons. Maybe Mr. Rembrandt can go into those reasons why women date up. There's probably a lot of biological reasons there. But in general, that you guys do that. So it's predicated on how are we going to always talk about equality when even in just the dating strategy, you don't date equal.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah. Because women, even the work of evolutionary psychologist David Bussey has coined this very, very dramatically. He has multiple citations on evolutionary biologists and others. He has come to the research and conclusion that women are using resource allocations in the way that they judge men for in intersexuality, not to be confused with intersexuality dating market dynamics, mating preferences. Women want to date men that have resource allocations, which is called. And resource allocations consist of different things. Income is one of them, usually rated at one of the top factors of resource allocation, and other ones proceed underneath that. And it's different for every woman. Some women will take income or second or third or fourth. Every woman is not the same, right? But as we know, that the exception is not the rule. Okay, so typically income is on the top echelon, and then following that, women like sometimes muscular in size, for example, because this shows a physical safety and security. The ability to be technical, like guys who are good with their hands, mechanics. They show they can fix things. They show they can take care of the car. They can fix things in the house. They're good with tools. This is why women do like blue collar job guys, because they're clever, they're handy. This is a biological resource allocation that it's very prehistoric and old. The ability for men to be resourceful, the ability to hunt, which is not so much a thing so much anymore. The ability where she can see that he can communicate with others very well, because she sees that he has an ability to network and use his ability to communicate, which could add promise to the relationships. And those are just to name a handful. There's a whole literature on this. And you know, but I'll add to this, because Kevin Samuels, may he rest in peace, and other manosphere guys. I wouldn't consider myself a manosphere guy. I consider myself more sort of a self-proclaimed theorist, because I'm coming up with my own psychological theories and citations of my own. But and I'm more scientific and clinical with my understanding of things. But I will say that in the manosphere, and through to my talkings and things that we talk about, some people might classify as manosphere, but I don't. I'm not. I'm clinical and data driven. But in the manosphere, such as like Cameo Sevens or Fresh and Fit or other these guys, Red Pill guys, Raul Tomasi, some of these guys have talked about some of these things, not quite the way I explained it, but similar things of this nature. Facts about marriage. They've spoke about it. But one thing they don't speak about is, okay, yeah, that is what you need to get a woman. That's not what you need to keep a woman. Because when you get in a relationship now, the commodity is no longer about your finances or your ability to cause safety within the family. The fact that you're tall, and after she gets in a relationship with you, and more so after she gets that ring, it's not about any of those things at all. So actually, that's why when I was dating, I understood this, and I didn't know why I understood this, because I didn't have the clinical data behind it. But I knew from an a priori situation, and we talked about this years and years ago, before any of these Kevin Samuel guys or these Rolls, before any of these guys were big. We talked about this, and one thing mentioned is, I used to tell you that when I go out with a young lady on a date, I don't tell her what I do. I don't tell her how much income I have. I don't tell her what I do. I don't give her any of that, because at the end of the day, we need to build a relationship based on qualities about each other. Because if we're not compatible and understand each other's qualities and compatible, the relationship's not going to survive. It's not going to matter how much money I have or where I live, what car I drive. None of that. That's going to be relevant in you staying interested in me, but that's not going to be relevant when we're actually committed in a relationship. It's not. A lot of these guys have even said, like I've heard Fresh and Fit and other guys have said this, and they're not wrong, but it's not 100% correct, where they say, well, income is the number one reason for divorce. No, it's not. There are a lot of stats that say income is top 5. There are even a smaller amount of stats that say that it's top 3, and there's very little stats that say that it's number 1. to be honest. So when it comes to the reason for divorce, it's not actually income. The number one most transparent reason for divorce that I've come to when it comes to the clinical literature is based upon lack of commitment and attention. That is the number one reason. And that clinical data showed that they took 6, 7, 8 different studies and they did a study of their own with open-ended questions. And that was the undoubted answer that people gave, right? Lack of commitment. And when having them describe what is the lack of commitment that you felt, it all culminated down to attention. So this muscle and games thing that Raul Tomasi says, and I love Raul Tomasi. I like Raul Tomasi. I like him. So I'm not targeting him, and I would love to sit down and talk with him too. Okay, this is not an attack on him or anything of that nature. But this muscle and game stuff, yeah, all of that is cool. But that doesn't get you to keep your woman. It might get you to be the man that women desire. It'll definitely get your body count out. It'll get your desirability up, but it won't get your long-term durable competitive advantage when it comes to staying within a relationship.
Just an entry point in the game.
That's all. I mean, that's really all it is. Again, so in second to that is argument and conflict. Is the second reason why divorces occur. And the third reason is work and money. That's the third reason. And two of the other top 5 reasons, which are kind of insignificant, which claims is fidelity and getting married too young, which I think they're not exactly relevant, because there's a study that showed that in relationships that have fidelity, when the two couples are able to get over the fidelity as the future goes on fizzles out as any problem at all. And we've seen that. Like if a man is usually honest with his woman, like, hey, I cheated, I'm sorry, I apologize, it'll never happen again, the woman tends to be very, very forgiving. So typically it's not really that much of a factor as far as I'm concerned. It is rated as top 5, but that's a situational top 5. And getting married too young is one of the top 5 answers. That's kind of ambiguous too, because there's no evidence that getting married old or older gives more success than getting married younger. Because typically women get married younger, and typically men are older than their wives. So that doesn't actually play.
And just real quick, just to point out what you said with the top 5, I would argue your number 1 and 2 reasons. Number 1 being lack of attention and commitment, and number 2, argumentative conflict. So I would say that if you actually don't have an issue with number 1, and you're giving your woman attention and commitment, and you actually have conflict resolution, that's number 2, and you're good at that, the rest don't even matter. Who cares that you have bad working job? Because if a man's giving his woman a lot of attention and commitment, and also has good conflict resolution, who cares about his work and money? A woman will go out and be poor with him if she get those 2 things. Yeah. I'm not saying that all women, but I'm saying if he was struggling a little bit with his income, there would be a lot more reasons for her to work with that, because those are the top 2.
Yeah.
It would be a lot harder for her to leave that if she was getting true attention and commitment, and he had very good conflict resolution skills. There would be no reason to even worry about number 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
Does that make sense? If I'm saying
of course,
right?
yeah, of course, and that's essentially what I'm saying. Hey guys, sorry to stop the show, but I hope you're enjoying the podcast episode. But I just had to add this in there real quick. Sorry about this, but we had a 5 or 6 hour conversation before we even started the podcast. We were very tired, and we were trying to have this conversation while being extremely exhausted, and we debated whether or not we would even have the podcast because we were so tired. But in that exchange, Raw Wilkes comes to the conclusion that if you have 1 and 2 of the top reasons why relationships end in divorce, you have those 2 taken care of, meaning conflict resolution and you're showing commitment and attention, that essentially the other issues are now null and void and not a problem at all. And I said, yeah, that's what I meant. Actually, it's not what I meant. I was just really trying to get to the other 3 or 4 points that I had that were in my head, but it kind of broke up my flow and I just agreed with him so I could get to the next point. And even Raw Wilkes was like, wait a minute, is that right? So I'm clearing it up. So no, it's not right. If you get into a relationship with a woman and you don't have any money and she accepts that, if you are good at the other areas and don't cause the other areas problems, then you don't have to worry about divorce. But if you get in a relationship with a woman has financial or economic expectations of you, and you don't have your finances in order or the other aspects in order, it will end in divorce. So I just needed to clear that up. It's not, oh, you have 1 or 2 out of the top 5 reasons of divorce. You have those 2 areas good, and you suck at the other areas, and you won't get a divorce. No, you absolutely will. She will leave you. So just clearing that up. Back to the episode. Yeah, that's essentially what I'm saying. So
yeah.
So
I was just kind of like reframing it like in a different way for the audience.
Yeah. So let's dive a little bit deeper into this. I want to dive a little bit deeper into this for the viewers because this is extremely important. So attention, right? So first of all, the number 2 reason is conflict, right? Conflict and arguing. So let's go over the top reasons of conflict and arguing. So 1 is roles and goals. Roles and goals. See, and this is a problem. Like, people want to say this 50-50 relationship thing, 50-50. I say that is the most disastrous concept that anybody has ever come up with when it comes to a relationship. It doesn't work. 50, what do you mean 50-50? So I cut the grass today, you cut the grass today. I go on and fix the roof today, you go on and fix the roof tomorrow. You cook and change the diapers of the children today, tomorrow, and then tomorrow you cut, and then I cut the grass that day, and then tomorrow you go out and cut the grass, and then I cook and clean the kids up tomorrow. Is that what you're saying? No. I've asked women this. None of them agree to that. So this concept of 50-50 it's ridiculous. It's like I said before, the only 50-50 part is maybe 50% of the tasks needed in life that's done is split. But what you're doing, you're going to be doing all the time. And what I'm doing, I'm going to be doing all the time. It's not, oh, I'm paying the bills this month. The next month you're paying the bills. And then this month you're cooking every day. And then next one I'm cooking every day.
Or a mechanical car issue.
Right. I fix the car today, then you fix the car tomorrow.
Yeah.
There is none of that. So this false dichotomy, which is influencing young women, because this is a coined term by young modern women, 50-50. And it's just not true. Because the number 2 reason why couples argue is by goals and roles. Because there aren't any predefined gender roles. We're getting out of gender roles. Right? Okay, like, you might have a non-agreeable, aggressive wife, and then something happens where she takes care of everything generally. But then something happens when she can't take care of it. And she's cussing him out, telling him that you need to go do that. And then he's confused because he has figured that you were in charge and you're the highly aggressive woman. How come you're not taking care of it? Boom, argument. So argument, conflict and arguing is the number 2 reason.
I agree with that a lot because if you don't have law and order, it's funny because the whole world is based on law and order. You go to work, there's an SOP, there's a guideline, there's a standard operating procedure, and you follow that within the constructs of that. You go on the road, there's all law and order, how you drive your car and how you follow the rules of transportation. And then when it comes to your relationship, it's like you don't want to have no boundaries. You just want to be 50-50. And this is where the chaos comes in. Because today you want to do this, tomorrow is that, and it's like this 50-50 and this. And it's like, yeah, gender roles is good because it gives you a foundation to be able to follow and be able to have some type of order. Because without order, it's just chaos. I mean, by default, by de facto.
Yes.
By de facto.
Yes. When it comes to what couples argue about, right, which is the number 2 reason for divorce is arguing and conflict. The number 1 argument and the reason for arguing is goals and roles. The number 2 is work and finance. Okay, so, and I think it's more of the work than the finance, to be honest. And the number 3 thing is children, right? So again, this is top heavy. This is top heavy. If you understand the goals and the roles, I don't believe having an argumentative conflict over work and finances or children will even be at play when you understand the goals and roles. Now, here's a caveat to all of this. Right? And John Gottman, one of the leading individuals on relationships and relationship psychologists, world renowned, came to the conclusion that in general, when it comes to arguing, that couples just argue perpetually about absolutely nothing. So you have the reasons for what couples argue about that lead to divorce. But in general, the arguing that takes place in a relationship is generally just perpetual nothing nonsense. Now, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that for a little bit. Why is that? Why is it that, and we understand this, men understand this from an a priori situation, and women understand this from an a priori situation. Because some women know that they're hard to handle because they're verbally aggressive. And in married men and men in relationships, from an a priori understanding, because there's jokes about it, men get in the locker room, men at work, they talk about it. Damn, my wife this, my wife that, she just won't stop. She just won't stop nagging. So what is the reason for this? And why women are so argumentative, verbally aggressive? The reason for this is stats and studies have shown that women are verbally and indirectly aggressive at tremendously higher rates than men are. The clinical research is clear. I'll say this again. Women are indirectly and verbally aggressive at higher rates than men are. Other studies have shown at minimum, they are just as verbally and indirectly aggressive as men. But on average, they are higher verbal and indirect aggression. So what does this mean? This means that women engage in all sorts of aggression, innuendo, gossip, character destruction, manipulation, Machiavellianism, beauty, nominal forms of power, cunning, guile, provocation, which is a big one. And women and one of the big ones is shit testing. So women do this on a constant basis. They shit test their men. And women aren't physically aggressive like we are. Us as men, we typically dominate and do things generally by physical aggression or by being a formidable force. Women don't have an aggressive nature in that way. Women use aggressive natures indirectly and verbally. And the verbal aggression that women have, again, that I laid out. And one of the big factors is shit testing. So why do women do this? They shit test. They shit test to see how far that they can push you, to see how far that they can achieve desired outcomes with you as a man. And it's a woman's way of getting what she wants, using proxy. It's another one to get desired outcome. And it's a very toxic thing that women do. I mean, you've seen it. You've seen it. You know, I've seen it with relationships, and we've come to this esoteric understanding that the deeds that you do with your significant other, it has a sand timer eclipse to it, and it's like once you turn that sand timer and set it on the table from the time that you've done a good deed, by the time that sand runs out, her agitation is steadily increasing until you do that next deed.
Yeah, it's a constant work. And that's why even women that talk to, it's even women that are older that have sons. Weird, because if you ask a woman, would you, when it comes to her son, you know, would you want your son to date a woman like you when you were the way you're describing? And she would say absolutely not. When it comes to their children, I've seen this. I asked women that have kids. When it comes to like women that actually, like, for instance, deal with that women are verbally aggressive and all the things that you described, and you say that, would you want your son to date a woman like that? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That the woman that you're describing is you. But yet you know what I'm saying? But when it comes down to it, it's like, and then they'll say like, well, women are very needy. I've talked to older women like, yeah, I know that I wouldn't want my son to get married too early because women are very needy. They need a lot of attention and it's a lot of work. But it's not like they don't understand that until like they get into an age that's like already like in their mid 30s, 40s. It's like, well, if you understood that same concept when you're 20s, it'd probably be a better outcome. But it's, you know, it's weird what you described. It's like even, like when it comes to like, how are you just describing that? I just lost my train of thought.
Indirect verbal forms of aggression.
Yeah, indirect verbal forms of aggression. If it came down to like actually assault, I was thinking about this too, about like verbal assault and how it's women's form of aggression. And if we actually correlated that to physical aggression, how many women would be locked up for verbal assault?
Yeah, if it was a thing, yeah, because assault is obviously physical. Thing. Yeah, but the claim of quote unquote verbal assault, right? Verbal violence. No, violence is a physical action, right? Yeah, but no, great point. But if we were to classify it as physical, or if we were to classify it as an assault of some sort, how many women would be in jail? Well, it would be a lot higher than ours, because that is the inherent tool or form of aggression that women use. It's undoubted. So when it comes to shit testing, it's incredible because, and this goes into the dissidence. This goes into the dissidence of paradoxical thinking to show that it is inherently a manipulative tactic. The clinical data has stated clearly that indirect forms of aggression and verbal aggression is a manipulative tactic to achieve desired outcomes. So this is why the arguing and nagging that women do, it's perpetual, because it has no end goal. The end goal is desired outcomes. But even Diana Fleshman has even said that young women understand that they can do it with lower valued men, but with higher valued men, they have to temper it because it's not necessarily accepted with higher valued men. And I've said this in another episode, and somebody commented that's not true. Yes, it is. The clinical data is clear, and we understand this. Like, we understand this from an a priori understanding, right? Because I've even asked other women that, and they looked at me like, basically like, how do you know? And they've all agreed to it, and it's like they know. I've even asked women about shit testing. Have you ever shit tested your man? Every last one of them said yes. Every last one of them said yes. And all of them have said that. And I said, hasn't that hurt your relationship? She said, and a lot of them have said yes. And a lot of them have said, without even me asking, that, but I do understand, like, where you have a man who's like smart or has a lot of money or something like that, or he's very masculine, he won't accept a lot of your shit testing a lot of the time. Yeah. So the fact that somebody made a comment that, oh, what I'm saying isn't true, it's probably some 14-year-old kid just commenting. But so my question to them was, if you know that, okay, you shit test to try to see how far you can push him, and you're shit testing for attention, right? To take more of his time away from whatever he's doing, to take it to give it to yourself, right? It's a selfishness. You're manipulating him to be more into you because you have some selfishness going on, right? You're trying to manipulate him to get desired outcomes, right? So you're doing all these things. Don't you know that if you don't do that right, that can hurt your relationship and cause him to dump you and or leave you? And all of them has said, yes, that sometimes it does backfire. So that's where the dissidence comes in. So
Irrational.
what exactly in this paradoxical behavior? So why would you engage in a strategy or even feel the need or desire to engage in this type of behavior when sitting down consciously you can sit here and understand that type of behavior has a negative conclusion? And when I ask that, there's no answer.
Yeah, it is amazing. It's like it's a game to you. It's like you get a rise out of it. I don't know.
It is completely a game. It is completely a game.
And like back to the whole, just real quick, that just came to my thought when you were talking about the whole time decay when it comes to women and good deeds you do for them. And it's like what you do for them today does not hold weight for tomorrow. You know,
which is sad.
Not literally, but figuratively.
Yes.
And we were talking about this when we were talking about just something that might be profound that happened to me in high school, and I might be able to give a man respect for something he did for me in my life as a young child, a young kid, or adolescent, that I might be able to hold weight and give respect to him until I die for some good deed that he did to me that changed my life and when I was a teenager. But when it comes to women, you could give her the greatest thing, you know, marry her. Her wedding day could be the greatest thing. And maybe a year later, you're divorcing. And that actually day meant nothing. You know what I'm saying? Or it meant nothing, or you won't be able to recall it, you know, or anything that you might have done that might have made them super happy or gave them or something that might have even made them a better woman. Let's not even talk about marriage. Let's say you're with a woman and certain things you've done for her made her a better woman or a better person. And because y'all no longer in a relationship, what you did actually means nothing and might not even hold weight or respect. Where I could actually be friends with another man and might have differences, but still show my respect towards them. Because men and women show respect in two different ways. You know, like when it comes to parenting, and I know you said this with that guy that with the father aspect and caring from a caring and nurturing standpoint. But the roles of the father, the roles of the mother are very distinguished. And who was that guy that was the book that you were seeing you read that breaks that down a little bit better when it comes down to the art of the father and the mother, and the father teaches these things
The
that
boy crisis.
Playhousing. Yeah.
The boy crisis, Warren Farrell.
Warren Farrell. That's it. That's what I was trying to get. I knew you knew it. And I was saying, like, when it comes to those things, it's like from a boy standpoint, it's like we don't need to be impressed that much, and then things can last longer. Like if a woman does a good deed for us, or maybe buy us that dream car that we wanted, you know, we could be happy for years, several years off of that one thing, and maybe even have a million reasons to leave her, but still not leave her.
Yes.
Where a woman could be being taken care of, provided for, and then feel like in a week or two that I didn't give her enough attention, and start basically saying that the relationship's going downhill. But it's only been 2 or 3 weeks since the last thing I done with you. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And it's
sad.
like that it gets sad because it gets extrapolated. Like, okay, if I'm going to be the man like you just described earlier, when you said that women date men that are hypergamous, they date men that have higher income, but you said those things don't matter. It's like to become those things, that shit took time. It took years.
Yes.
It took dedication. It took discipline.
Yes.
It took a lot of grit to be able to come the man that finally just gave you the entry, not to even keep you, just to get the entry.
Just to get the entry.
Think about the burial of entry that a man has to get your attention.
Yes.
And then to do all that for you to not appreciate it for a short period of time because you're not getting the constant attention and affirmation that you need.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Like you said, I can't keep you, but I have to get your attention doing all that work that I had to do.
Yes.
Because most guys are what? Invisible to women.
Most guys are invisible. Yeah.
And the ones that are visible can't even keep you.
Yes. Because 1 out of 3 men are either virgins or haven't had sex within the last year.
But yet, as men, we can date down. Y'all can't.
Yes.
So what does that say about us? What does that say about us? Most men date down. We don't date women equal or above. If we had y'all strategy, most women would be single and never have a relationship. If we were like we would never date anybody. We would have no women to date if we only dated up.
Yes.
Like y'all.
No, you're absolutely right. You're speaking facts here. Speaking truth. I mean, it's such an incredible and sad dichotomy in which our society has culminated to, that these paralogical ideas are being culminated by young women. It's destroying our
And
society.
who coined the happy wife, happy life thing?
Oh,
Who coined that?
It had to be a woman, because all this saying is prescribing to is that the prescription that men just need to become impotent and acquiesce to their wife. Because happy wife, happy life is saying that your feelings, what you think, and how situations are that don't benefit you as a man, you just need to deal with it and acquiesce to your wife in order to make her the happiness. Because somehow, even if you're doing things that are making you unhappy, it's going to make you happy because she's happy. I can never convince myself of such a ridiculous philosophy.
Yeah. Miserable life is what that is. And that just shows you who's more tolerant and who's more intolerant.
Oh yeah, well, the number when it studied men, for example, when it comes to divorce, one of the number one reasons why men don't get divorces in relationships is because men are more stoic. Men are willing to actually go through the hard times of the relationship while women aren't.
Right. I agree with that.
Because that was the question asked to men on why they don't get divorces. And they're just willing to just try their best to just fix it and deal with it. And we see this all the time. Like this, we don't need clinical data and researches from the most smartest intellects of our time. We know that men just deal with the crap. They just deal with it, and they just try to work it out.
And we're problem solvers by nature.
And we don't typically give up on things. Meanwhile, while the woman will be the foundation of the issues with her indirect and verbal aggression, and be the center of the filing of the divorce in which she leaves you. And I don't like to prescribe to this idea that there's something wrong with the nuclear family, because I don't think there is. I think the nuclear family with traditional values is incredibly exceptional. But I don't want to prescribe men to not pursue relationships or marriage, for that matter. I will say that there's a lot of problems and dangers and fear that young men have nowadays with going that route in society. It's undoubted. It's undoubted. I mean, if you think about it from start to beginning, you named some of it. You have to become all these different things. You got to become competent, smart, have a good job. You can't be living in your mom's basement, smoking weed and playing video games. You got to get your resource allocation going. You got to man up, right? You got to get on your own, right? And that's the winner over. Then after you win her over, you got to still kind of be this masculine guy, but not too masculine. And you got to be in touch with your emotions. So she wants you to be somewhat feminine. She wants you to kind of be metrosexual, right? Then at the same time, she wants you to kind of become impotent and acquiesce to her, because she's going to want some nominal forms of power. And then you as a man, you have to convince yourself that this is normative behavior, happy wife, happy life, right?
Stockholm.
Yeah, exactly. You Stockholm yourself. And then all of these aspirations that you did have and desires that you had before you met her, now because you become impotent, you throw those away. And you say, my life now is a life of just marriage and kids. And that's what a lot of men have convinced them to. I mean, not to bring your dad into it, but your dad has done that. And it doesn't mean he's 100%. A bad man. He's been a great man, great provider, great man. But the fact that you shouldn't have to put any other dreams or focuses you have as a man to just dedicate it 100% to your family due to undesired means, due to being impotent and acquiescing. Now, if that's what you want, that to be the center of your life, and it's to some standpoint, it should be definitely the top thing, one of the top things in your life. Especially when tragedy happens, it needs to be number one, but it can't be at the expense of your psychological health as a man. And that's what essentially is doing.
And this is why we talk about men have to have and define their purpose, because that will always keep you in line from actually deviating to that, what you're saying.
Yes.
And getting into that realm. And if you have purpose, the purpose can always get you right back on track. You know, because if I have to find purpose, I can tell my woman that, hey, how am I the lead in the relationship, but yet you want me to acquiesce to you? What outcome is that giving me?
Yes.
Why should I? You should actually be acquiescing to me. I'm leading you.
Yes.
If I'm leading you, you should be doing it to me, not me doing it to you.
Yes.
And it's not really a masculine thing. It's really who's the lead. I'm not even saying you should do it to men. Whoever the lead is in the relationship, who is leading the family to the promised land.
Yeah.
Whoever that person is the person should be acquiescing to that person. Yeah. I should be the provider and leader and be kissing ass to the person that actually is following. What sense does that make?
You married me. You married me because you thought I was a competent, strong man who you looked up to. And then after we got in a relationship, you turned me into a sycophant. You turned me into a sycophant.
Yeah.
Which, for those who don't know, is a butt kisser. Sycophant is somebody who kisses butt. Yeah,
basically. It's funny, man, because it's like you said, a lot of blue collar average men go through this. Now at the top, not so much, because to be fair and to be honest, women at the higher level of men you're replaceable. You're so replaceable, it's ridiculous, because men date down. So women got to understand, if a high value man is dating a woman that's not on his level, well, you got to understand, if you're not at his level, you're so replaceable. There's more women to pick from.
Yeah.
But you might not be able to find another man at his level, though.
Yeah.
As easily as I can find another woman at your level.
Yeah. So
because I'm not dating equal. I'm not dating equal enough. I'm dating down.
Yeah.
So I don't have to deal with you. The higher value I am, I don't have to deal with that. So I don't have to acquiesce. I can just replace you and just say, you know what, it's all good and good. I just find another woman.
Yeah.
It's actually quicker for me to do that than actually deal with your problems. That actually probably mess up my production. Because every minute in time I got to deal with you, that has nothing to do with my outcomes in life and my purpose. I'm wasting time that I can't get back.
Yeah.
And actually, a good woman, which we can talk into it just a little bit, it's basically being inspirational and supporting her man at a high level so he can become more productive for you.
Yes.
Not the other way, where you pull him away to deal with things that have nothing to do, like you said, nothing to do with nothing. Arguments that have nothing to do with anything.
Yes.
You're pulling me away. Yeah, and you're pulling me away from being the best man I could possibly be.
Yes.
It's the opposite of what a wife should be doing for her husband.
Yes.
You're supposed to make me grow, not decay.
Yes.
And this is and real quick, just for the audience, is like, what do you think about arranged marriages, and then what is the percentage of those marriages lasting a lifetime or ending in divorce when it comes to arranged marriages?
Most of arranged marriages, upwards of 80%, do not divorce. And the benefit in it is, one of the major benefits is that the sexual and intimate dichotomy is the fact that when two virgins get together, the success of them staying together is the highest amongst any other sexual dichotomy. And then secondly to that is when a woman has less than 5 sexual partners in a lifetime, and a man has approximately no more than 15, adds the highest chance of success, for example. And really, I don't think it's 15. I think 15 is just a solid number. I think 15 is when it actually just starts going up for men. But with women, 5 is like, when it goes over 5, it starts getting red. It's like disastrous for women when they have more than that amount of partners. But the best amount of partners is for example, is virgins, both virgins. So arranged marriages is typically 2 virgins, for example. And the arrangement, for example, is bigger than the 2 individuals who are getting married. The arrangement is two families coming together, because when you do an arranged marriage, the families meet and they agree like a business deal. This is why my ex didn't like this. And one thing I told her, I said, listen, our marriage, our relationship is, if we do get married or whatever, but our relationship is going to be it's gonna be a relationship, but it's gonna be bigger than that. We're going to be a team. We're going to be a business. We're going to be a group. We're going to be a partnership. Really, the last thing we're going to be is just a relationship, right? Because, and what I mean by that is, when it comes to a team, you have your point guard who runs the floor, and you have your center who plays the center of the court, who plays down in the paint, grabbing rebounds, snatching rebounds, elbowing MFers, and slamming the ball down, hopefully breaking the rim. And the guard is up there crossing people up, shooting J's, or passing the ball, throwing alley-oops to the big man. Okay, this is how that's being done. That's what we're going to be. We're going to be a group that works together synergistically, which is reciprocity, not reciprocation. We're not playing the reciprocation game. We're playing reciprocity game. For those who don't understand that, reciprocation is typically I do something. Reciprocating is, okay, I say, okay, I gave you $1, and then one day I'm going to say, hey, remember when I gave you $1? Now give me $1. That's reciprocating. Reciprocity is I give you $1, I don't even care. I'm not looking for anything in return. And then by you just having reciprocity, you just give me $1 and you're not keeping score. And we just do it like that. That has better outcomes. Okay. Yeah. So then we're going to be like a partnership. Okay. Right. So if we have a business, we have a partnership. There's aspects about the business that I'm competent in, and I'm just going to make the decision. And you're just going to be a passive investor as a result of it. And then there's certain aspects of it that you're going to know, and I'm just going to follow you when it comes to this, and I'm going to be passive about it. Okay? And that has a more transparent understanding of what the dichotomy environment trying to lay down as far as a relationship. Because when you just say, yeah, we're just going to be in a relationship, well, what does that actually mean? Again, there's no goals and there's no roles. There's no predefined goals and roles. This is going to end in a disastrous way. So in an arranged marriage, they understand that this is about bringing our families together. So if we do want to get divorced, this is bigger than us. Yeah, they're building a relationship. Yeah, they're building a relationship not on sand. They're building a relationship in a foundation on concrete. Yes. The man goes to the father, or really they go by word of mouth. And the way they do it in the Bangladesh community, and they do this a lot in even other communities like Philippine communities and Muslim communities, especially Muslim ones, the men don't have to be virgins. Sometimes they are. But the time a man hits close to 30, he's looking for a wife now. And typically he wants a wife early 20s or maybe even high teens. And typically he wants her to be a virgin. And they arrange the marriage. And he goes to the family. He goes typically to the father, asks permission. Or he asks word of mouth. He says, listen, I'm trying to get married. Do you know anybody? And they talk around and families talk. And then he goes to the father. He asks for permission. And and they do an arranged marriage. And she is told, not asked, she is told, you will marry him. This will be your husband. Mm-hmm. Based upon what we agreed to.
Who makes that decision? What people predominantly make those decisions in arranged marriage? Who is the responsible?
The father is typically the one who says yes. And the man who will potentially be the husband is the one who does the search and the asking. The asking. And then after that, after that's cleared, the families will meet each other, and provide a ceremony
And
for.
you said 80% don't divorce.
Upward of 80%. Upward of 80%.
So
it
we
could
could
be 90 something.
So it could be nice. So we can conclude that when amongst men make the decision for women, that there's better outcomes than when women pick their mates for long-term spouses.
Well, at least it appears that way.
Yeah, that's all I was to say. It could be wrong or not, but I'm just saying that we could appear that might seem like when men are involved and make decisions that is based on logic and rationale and not feelings.
Yes.
Could we at least agree with that? Because if you're talking about a business combining families, I would rather say it's based on a more of a logical business standpoint. Like, hey, your last name is this, my last name is this. Let's combine. We can build something bigger. Has nothing to do with happiness.
Yes.
Has more to do with that we think that we will be a good match as if we come together in a bigger force and be able to have more productivity together.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I always thought what marriage is, but I think today the marriage is loosely that it's selfish reasons. I get married because selfishly I just want him, and I want him to make me happy, which then, like you said, is built on sand. It's not built on concrete, and you wonder why it only lasts a year or two. It doesn't last a long time because it's not built on something that if I divorce you, I have to think about I'm divorcing the whole family. I'm letting my whole family down now if I divorce you, because my whole family is predicated on me making sure I get up with this family to make sure we make it work.
Yes. Yes.
So now if I cut that string off, you're the reason why we are now in a position we are now as an unmarried, whatever. And then we don't know how many connections or relationships we broke off just by divorcing. If it's based on a bigger picture of what you just depicted.
Yes.
I mean, I'm all about arranged marriage. Why do you think the Western women would not be arranged? Because I asked this question, a lot of women are like, I would never do arranged marriage. I don't want no man telling me who to date, and it's my decision. Why do you think that's the case?
Toxic social Western ideologies.
Even though the outcome is better. Now, do these women end up loving their man truly, though? Because a lot of women say, well, how do you know this woman doesn't love him?
Yeah. Well, and here's the reason behind that, is the psychology behind that. She doesn't know what love is because she never had love. She never dated. She's untarnished. She's untoxified. And that's why they stay virgins until marriage. They stay virgins until marriage. You will not, there's no such thing as sleeping around, trying it out, promiscuity. It's monogamy, and that is it. Your box is saved for marriage to your husband. And
so
that's
you
it.
leave from your father's care and you go right to your husband's care.
To a man's care, yes. Absolutely.
I mean, all this stuff makes perfect sense. It's funny that we just don't adopt it. It seems so outdated. Like, how dare does a man take a woman's freedom to make a choice?
And obviously that allows a more significant and higher pair bond. Right? Because the oxytocin release that she gets from an intimate session has only been released with him. No other man has caused that release on her.
Right. Because if you have a lot of partners, you can now start comparing your,
you get used to breaking the pair bond.
Yeah.
Psychologically.
I can see that.
This is why when women have promiscuous sex, it psychologically messes with them.
And you could be with a good man. And there's been memes about this. Would you date a man that basically sex game is a 1, but he has a lot of money, or a broke guy that has, that can basically make you, climax every time? The fact that this is even a discussion shows that you have too many partners. Because if you didn't have any partners, you wouldn't actually know whose sex game was actually weak or who was better.
Right.
So it's funny because somebody actually said that in the comments, like, well, how do you know who has the better sex game if you didn't have a lot of partners? Seems like a lot of people in these comments are very, have a high body count.
Yes.
And it's funny, just back the whole, about the whole arranged marriages. And I remember telling my sisters that your man and your family should be vetting the men that you choose. And now, obviously, I'm not doing arranged marriage, but to a certain degree on a lower level, I think it's very important that women allow their brothers and their, the men of their family to vet other men, because men can see other men's actual, not outcomes, but actually a little bit more tell what type of man you're actually dealing with more than you can, because you might have feelings involved that a man doesn't have when he's betting another man. So over a course of questioning, I could tell what this guy's intentions could be for you over a long term, you know what I'm saying, as a long-term standpoint, versus you might find him funny, attractive, and things that make you feel good and give you that butterfly. But me as your brother, or as somebody that's, looking at it rational, can he provide, protect, and lead? I could be able to vet that out way easier than you, because I am a man and I actually have those aspirations to be those things. So when you think about it, it makes perfect sense to let the men in your family vet your man, but most women don't want that to happen and they fail.
Yeah.
Because if a lot of
absolutely.
relationships that my little sister had bad, I would have ended them for her. They'd be like, yeah, I could have told you that, because I could read a man's bullshit that he can. Because you got to remember, men have ways of using game and affirmation to say what they need to say just to get close to you. It's been done. This is why pimping and playing all goes together, because men know what to say and know how to hit a certain way to make you feel good.
Yes.
So he can't talk to me like that, because I'm not going to respond the same way. So he has to tell me what his goals are, what his future plans are and aspirations are. You might not be able to ask those questions because you're not thinking like that. And I always ask that. I was like, you guys got to let your man do it, because a man can't bullshit another man. A man, if you had a daughter, another man is another boy that brings it to the house, is not going to be able to bullshit you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You'll be able to see right through them.
Yeah, and that's why I've said before that, these women are responsible for picking bad men. and I don't understand why it's so hard that they are picking bad men. One, because they're looking sometimes for men in the wrong way. They're using resource allocations, but sometimes their viewpoint on what the resource allocations that are competent are getting skewed, because younger women typically have incorrect ideologies of what resource allocations are basically useful. And sometimes younger women strive for resource allocation that are geared towards more bad boy guys, nice car, bad boy attitude, aggressiveness, because they like the exploitative aspects, materialistic things. And as they get older and their value typically goes down, they typically then now they might have had a lot of bad relationships, and they've learned from that, and they might have a couple of kids now, and they've learned from that. Now they're wising up, and now they're ready, and now they're competent, and now they're trying to be submissive now, all of a sudden, now that they're close to 30 over 30. Right, because they're panicking. The time is getting low.
Yeah.
But I've always said I don't really understand why these women are picking bad men, because I can see a bad man a mile away. A mile away, but they're not taught how to be women from an early age anymore, and they're also not taught what good men look like from an early age.
No, I agree.
So, with that said, we'll have some final thoughts from this episode, and we'll have some final thoughts and close this episode out. So, any final thoughts that you have, Raw Wilkes?
My main thing is just do what is natural. This whole thing is obviously started with the conversation, with the comment. It's like, men are going to be men and women are going to be women. And I think it's important for us to understand each other's nature, understand a man's nature, and not all men, it's just in general, and understand a woman's general, because we do have biological difference and we are wired differently. And I think that if we understand that, we can be able to deal with each other more effectively, because the root of anything is understanding. I don't have to be you. I just need to understand you. And if I understand you, I know how to deal with you correctly. And a lot of stuff is misconceptions we have of each other, that if we actually really understood each other's nature from, since inception of time. I just think that we would just have a better thing instead of having all these sexist battles. You know what I'm saying? Because men have been competing with men. Because at the end of the day, I don't wake up thinking I got to compete with a woman. You know what I'm saying? Like, I compete with men. This is what I do. I understand that my competition is always going to be mostly men. It's not going to be women. And nothing against women, but it's just how it is. And I think if women would just understand and stick to their lane, they would have better outcomes too. Because there's beautiful things and wonderful things women have done for this world that, again, that's been imprinted, cemented into the foundation of this world that cannot go unnoticed. So for her to feel like maybe women are not getting appreciated, that shame on her. Sorry for that she feels that way. But there's a lot of things that women have done that was wonderful that we use every day. That every day that are wonderful things. So my final thoughts would be on that, just to be able to just research and go into just the biological aspects of males and the biological aspects of females. And maybe that would make you have better understanding when it comes to how the world works. Because it is still working that way. We're Western society. There's still a billion people in India, a billion people in China. There's a whole bunch of other, what I'm saying? It's not just the Western society. We're just one aspect. There's men and women everywhere. And the ideologies here is obviously not the same in other countries.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well said. I mean, I would agree completely to that, women need to be women and be empowered by being women and not doing things that are going to be bad and terrible for your future self.
Mm-hmm.
You have to think about your future self. One of the most incredible things that was ever coined by Jordan B. Peterson. You have to take an account of your future self. What are you doing now that's going to benefit for you in the future and not hurt you for the future? And you could be doing things now that are going to destroy future outcomes that in the future you would wish that you could go back in time and wouldn't have regrets. But guess what? We don't get time back. You don't get it back. And if you live by the sword, you will die by it. So, yes, I will definitely agree with that, women are beautiful, women are empowered, women are a lot of different things. But women do not have to be like young men. They can be excellent by being women.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, it's a great thing. Be women. Be women. You are great the way you are. And also I would say young women is, the average woman is, be vulnerable. And be vulnerable as in be open, communicate properly, and try your best to develop yourself into not using manipulative tactics in order to get desired outcomes. Because you don't have to, like I told the young ladies before, colleagues of mine, that you don't have to go through a shit testing scenario with your man to get desired outcomes. You don't have to go through the back door. You can go through the front door. The back door is locked. If you want something, talk to your man like the competent man that you've chosen and decided to be with, and sit down and just talk to him and be open. Don't have these trauma infused behavior in which you're using all of these sneaky, sly tactics to try to go through the back door to get what you desire nominally or through proxy. It's unnecessary. It's unnecessary. Go through the front door. So, with that said, conclude this episode of Verbal Artwork with Mr. Rembrandt. I'm Mr. Rembrandt, and I'm here with special guest Raw Wilkes. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you stay tuned to more videos coming out. And make sure you go to patreon.com/verbal artwork and become a subscriber there. definitely become a subscriber now, because in the future we're going to be, changing the tiers up and putting some more exclusive content back there. That's going to be excellent for you guys. In the meantime, remember that conversation is art, and foremost, words paint pictures. And this is Verbal Artwork, and I'm Mr. Rembrandt.